right, well, I mean, the hour has technically started. We've got some decent amount of attendees on, so we can open the door to questions. Basically, guys, this is Ask NX Anything. Any questions you guys have, feel free to fire away on the questions section, and Matt and I will address them either through audio or written.
I can't actually see questions at the moment.
So on your little GoToWebinar thing, Matt, if you look down at the bottom, there's like a bunch of closed arrows. One of them is questions.
Okay, so find it.
Either way, I'll read them out to you.
Yeah.
So questions are open. Feel free to ask your questions in the Q&A section. Chat is also open. If you're like Matt and you can't find questions, you could use the chat.
I can see the chat.
Oh, you can see the chat. All right.
I can see the chat, not the questions. Weird.
That's good. So Vladdo's the only guy who's asked a question so far, and he said, "How are you over in the U.S.?" And I'm all right. So
I hope everyone in Sydney and Melbourne are doing well. I know it's not easy during lockdown, but
so you guys are still in lockdown.
Melbourne and Sydney are still in lockdown, and Canberra.
Has the vaccine rollout in Australia, how's that going?
We're at 45% at the moment. It's going pretty strong.
Like Alabama.
Yeah, well, ours are actually getting vaccinated though. So.
All right, so Colin starts us off with the biggest, broadest question ever. What new features are coming in NX, and do we have a roadmap? So yeah, we have a roadmap, and we also have what new features are coming up. So in terms of new features in the next release, right, which we're targeting for the spring, mid to late spring, there's going to be a few kind of features that you guys might be interested in, right? One of the features is going to be a separate client update, a separate client upgrade. So what that means is that the client's going to be separated out from the server application in terms of updates. So if you've ever used like Spotify or Chrome, where the client downloads an update in the background, and then all you have to do is restart the client to get the newer version. In the initial release, it's really focused on, okay, how do we address bugs in the client? So for example, in the past, when we had to do a bug fix, if there was something in the client that was causing a bug, we would have to update both the client and the server to be matching. So that way we'd have to push out a patch, right? And you guys have to update a whole system. Now, a lot of clients or a lot of bugs may be client side, right? They may not be server side at all. And really a fix in the client and then the separate client upgrade allows us to basically push out an upgrade to the client without having to upgrade the rest of the system components. So that is one feature that is planned for the next release. In terms of other features, we got camera grouping or resource grouping. So the ability to create groups of devices for kind of faster navigation and sharing.
So this is actually a really cool feature, guys. So this feature, if you're doing multi-site or multi-server sort of thing, it allows you to group these cameras in a much more logical sense and allows you a lot more easier control for the end user and bits and pieces like that. So if you're doing a multi-retail site where you have 10, 15, 20 different sites, you can group these together a lot easier and a lot nicer inside the client. It's a really cool feature and something we've been asking for a long time.
Yep. Another feature is going to be the right panel is going to be redesigned a little bit for object search. So if you have an end camera analytic or you have an analytics package that allow you to search for objects based off of attributes, then the navigation itself is going to be vastly improved. So you'll be able to search by color and object type, and you still use keywords and stuff like that, but you'll be able to search by attributes of the objects themselves in the metadata search. Right now, it's primarily keyword driven, or like you're looking for like a specific thing, you have to type in a keyword that matches. So we're going to be improving that. That's going to be a big improvement, especially for analytics that are integrated. We have a, sorry, go ahead, Matt. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so you'll be able to filter out cars by color, and you'll be able to search via license plate. Obviously, if you've got the license plate recognition, but then you'd be able to search via car color and that sort of things. If you've got those sorts of objects, features built in or into your cameras or into as an analytic, so you have all these amazing new analytics searches that you'll be able to do inside NX rather than having to go out to the camera analytic or anything like that. It's a really cool upgrade and a really something that is really welcome from our side.
Yeah, it is a vast improvement for searching for objects for sure, and then that'll just be carried on basically moving forward. We're always trying to make it easier, since most things are now object-driven analytics search or deep learning-driven analytics, and a lot of those analytics are making their way into the cameras. Then that's just something that's going to be a default feature for VMSs moving forward.
So I'm not sure if any of you guys went into a webinar we did on Monday with some of the object tracking and bits and pieces like that. You'll actually be able to search for backpack, or you'll be able to search for all these things inside NX, and then be able to search for red shirt or whatever you're looking for inside NX as a simple little analytic search tool on the right hand side. It's a really big feature.
I'd say, I mean, as we get closer to a beta release of that, which is not very far away, then, we typically release a beta about 4 to 6 months before the actual release. And this time I know there's a lot of features people want to test, so we're going to do probably a beta 1 and then a beta version 2 later. So we'll probably get it out even sooner than expected. Once you get the beta, you'll really see what we're talking about in terms of how that panel is going to change. We don't want to share any mock-ups just because we don't want to give you guys, we don't want to give any false expectations, because a mock-up is basically that. It's just a mock-up with some functionality, but it's not the full kind of experience. So once the beta is out, you'll be able to test that. And the cool thing is, because we support a lot of in-camera analytics with the object search, then you can test it right away without having to implement a new deep learning engine or something like that. You'll be able to see it work with camera analytics built in. So another thing that's coming up is a CRUD, a new API. So the server API it's still gonna be the server API, but it's gonna be CRUD standardized. So it's basically just means it's gonna become even a more standard API. So a lot of libraries out there, if you develop software, they have pre-existing frameworks that use like CRUD APIs that allow you to really quickly snap on if you've got a truly RESTful API. And by making our API CRUD standard, it just makes it so that a lot of those developer frameworks work right away with our systems. And if anybody supports CRUD APIs externally in terms of like programming, HTTP requests, post and get requests, put requests, that sort of stuff, then CRUD, the new API, will basically make it a lot easier to do integrations for people who are using frameworks. Security fixes is a big thing in the next release. So authentication with MD5 hash, session-based authentication without MD5, TLS certificate, pinning certificate checks. It's really developer focused, but it's also about just information security. That's something we're always kind of paying attention to make sure we're keeping ahead of where the market is in terms of like attacks, basically. Another big feature that's coming, has been asked for a while, is going to be archive encryption. So you have the ability to actually encrypt the stored files on your hard drives. Right now, for example, if I break into, let's say I go like, Mission Impossible, and Matt's like lowering me through the grain, and I'm stealing somebody's NVR for some reason because there's footage on it, and then I can literally take that machine and I can take that footage, right? As long as I got physical access to the machine, once I have that hard drive, then I can re-index that hard drive and I can look at the footage, because we store in MKV files, and that can be played back in lots of different players. Right now, granted, you're gonna have to go through one file at a time to try and find the video you want, but you know it's possible that you could steal an NVR and look at footage right now. There's a couple different ways to mitigate that in the short term, which is that you can use like Seagate Exos drives that have like built-in encryption and stuff like that, and you can build like an ecosystem where you can support encryption via the OS and stuff like that. But we're gonna make it even easier, which is like, yeah, you can tick this button, and then the archive will be encrypted for you. So
the questions just come through and a text through to me on that one. Is that going to affect performance at all?
With anything we do on that level, the answer is generally no, right? So like our motion detection, our server-side motion detection has like a 0% impact on CPU. So our developers are very cognizant of performance in our platform as a whole. So when they encrypt something like when they implement something like archive encryption, you can pretty much bet a lot of money that it's not going to impact performance at all, right? Or if it does, very, very little for the trade-off. So that's archive encryption. There will be an update to the backup settings. Right now in backup settings, and we were just having a call with Dell about this earlier today because they're testing lots of different scenarios for us. You can do real-time backup, which means you can record 2 locations at once, or you can do scheduled backup on a weekly or daily basis, right? Like between this time and this time, I want to back up all the footage until it's complete. And you can do things like tweak the bandwidth and stuff like that to make sure that you're not slamming too much video through your network to a machine that can't handle it. But the big change, and you can do on-demand the backup right now, so you can just literally say, I want to back up now, right, until complete. The big change is we're going to allow you to back up events-driven video only. So what format that's ultimately going to take until I get personally more familiar with the alpha and the beta product, I can't really answer for you guys, but it's been an internal discussion for a while in terms of like, we need to be able to back up bookmarks. We need to be able to back up just events, right? I don't want to back up everything, right? I want to keep the important stuff for long term. So that is something that's being implemented in the next release, the ability to back up event-driven video. So that's a pretty big one.
So a real-world scenario for that, guys, if you've got your line crossings or whatever you've got set as an analytic event, at a specific date or time, you can have it set up so it backs up to a separate NAS, or it backs up to whatever hard drive solution that you're actually looking for just those events, rather than everything that we've got, which obviously takes up a lot of storage and bits and pieces. So you'll be able to back up to offsite, onsite, whatever solution you want. Like I said, we haven't seen it yet, but we do know that it is in the next release.
Yeah. Another feature in the next release is 2-factor authentication. You will have to have a cloud account, and you'll have to be a cloud-based user in order to use 2-factor authentication. But 2-factor authentication, big one. So if you're not familiar with 2-factor authentication is, which I'm assuming all of you are, but I'm gonna say it anyways. For 2-factor authentication is like when you sign into your bank and they send you a text message to your phone, and give you a code to make sure it's you before you log in, right? So it requires 2 factors to log in.
That's a big one for government, guys.
It's a big one just in general for security. Yeah. There will be the ability to proxy web applications locally. What that means, and I think this is what it means, because yes. So basically, right now, if you've got a local, like a local integration with a web-based platform, let's say you've got access control and it uses a browser-based environment to do the access control, right? If you're outside your office and your access control is based on the local area network only, and for some reason you don't have access to it outside the facility, when you log into NX, if you've got the web page for the access control open or input into your system, and it's a local IP address, then when you go look at that layout external to your site, you'll still be able to proxy via the NX Witness server or NX server to the web page. So you'll still be able to view that web page, right? So for really, there's a couple different things that make this really nice, right? One is like I said, local systems that run in a browser environment that you need to have access to. The other one is like if you need to go in and tweak a camera remotely. We've already been doing the kind of web camera web page in the settings dialog, right? But if you need a bigger interface for interacting with your cameras remotely, you could open up cameras locally, for example, have them in the tree and still have access to them remotely, even though they're only available on a local network. As long as that URL is in the client and in the cert, and then as a result, it's going to be stored in the server, then you'll be able to proxy via the NX Witness server to your local web applications that do not have external access. This is a big one too, which is instant playback. So right now, if you go and want to see the last minute of video, right? Something happened just now and you want to jump back like 10 seconds, we hold about a minute of video in buffer. And that's done so that when we write, we don't drop any frames and we don't lose any frames when we're writing and capturing that information. We store about 40 megabits or megabytes per camera, which works out roughly to about a minute on a 1080p camera, and then shorter on 4K cameras and stuff like that. As the resolution goes up, the buffer typically goes down because it's a memory buffer. Then in the next release, that 1 minute buffer is going to be gone. So you'll be able, it'll still be there, but you'll still be able to play back video from it, right? So we're still buffering it to make sure we're writing it to drive fast enough, but we're also giving you access to it while it's in buffer. So you can still play back video from the last minute. And that's a big deal because this has been a feature that's been asked for a very long time. and it's a pain point for some people. So this will just remove that pain point completely. Audio video mapping. So what this will allow you to do is assign audio from one device to other devices, right? So if you put a really nice IP video microphone, like a high quality microphone in like a reception area, and you've got 4 cameras, you don't need to hook up mics to all the cameras in order to be able to hear what's happening in that room. And maybe you even have a speaker attached to it, right? So what you can do then is you can assign that one mic to all 4 cameras in the reception area, as an example, right? And you can say, from this mic, I want to map this audio to these cameras. So pretty cool.
This is actually a pretty cool one for police forces who use microphones around separate to their cameras and bits and pieces like that. So what you'll be able to do is take that microphone that you've recorded separately, and then it basically overlay that the audio over the top of the CCTV footage to give you one nice, stream.
But you'll probably have to map it ahead of time. So you'll have to set up those devices, pre-map it. It's not going to you're not going to be able to do it post recording, right? I mean, you could do that post recording already with like Adobe After Effects or whatever, but this will allow you to do it on a system level. So a lot of cool features for that. Interview solutions, audio in a school environment, for example, where you have lots of students, or in a crowded environment where you got lots of cameras, but you only really want to have one audio source to hear what's going on. So audio to video mapping. There'll be an in-client JavaScript API, which is that this will allow oh, sorry, I'm just reading clarification of it. Okay, so this will allow you to basically create a web application, and then when you click on a button in that web application inside of the NX client, it'll allow you to trigger actions inside the NX client itself, like open a camera. So this way, if you've got, for example, if you want a live mapping solution and you've got a solution that you created that uses Google Maps, right, or Mapbox, and you want to have it, your client has a requirement for, I want to have clickable icons, and when I click on that icon, a camera opens up. This is it, right? This is the ability to do the live mapping solution, and that's really what's driving this for the most part, because we've had the request for live mapping for a long time. The problem with it is we're not a mapping company, we're a video company. So rather than come up with a way to do mapping that you guys are going to be tied into, we'd rather give you a JavaScript-based API to allow you to trigger client actions based off of whatever web application you're using. And therefore, it's more useful for creating all sorts of integrations, not just multi-level live maps, right? Maps themselves are super simple and straightforward to create, especially with like Mapbox and Open Maps and Google Maps. There's a lot of different tools to allow you to create mapping solutions on top of those really quickly. And then this JavaScript API just adds a layer to it that says, okay, I've created my map over here. Now I want to import that map and I want to add another layer to it, or I want to add a JavaScript call to the icons themselves. So when I click on the icon, I want a camera to open up, or I want a layout to open up. That sort of thing. So that's a pretty cool feature. There's going to be an update as well to the web admin in the web client, and this is going to be mostly cosmetic, right? Changes. There will be some new features and information in there as well. As you guys have seen in the cloud, it just continually develops, and that's something that's going to be happening kind of moving forward. Every once in a while, we'll drop some new updates in cloud. So that's the plan for the next release. If you've been following along with us for a while, you might be wondering about a couple things on top of that.
So there's just one more question that's come in. So
yeah.
with
I'm going to get to them after this, Matt. Let me finish this real quick, and then we'll jump into the questions that have come in while I've been talking. So one thing that's missing, for example, is cloud storage, right? Which we had planned for the next release, and that's gotten pushed back a little bit, just because we're implementing more support for more cloud storage options, and that will be pushed back to the next release. Other than that, I mean, the majority of additional features that are listed were never really planned for this release. But other things we're thinking about are like LDAP groups, single sign-on, easier navigation between systems, meaning you can pull in cameras from multiple systems potentially into one interface. System groups, the ability to allow you to kind of group systems together in the cloud. So if you're managing systems for your customers, you'd have, and let's say one customer has like 10 systems, you could group it together and create this client's groups. Groups health monitoring goes along with that. Groups user management. The ability to replace a camera easier. Something that's been around, requested for a long time. That's on the roadmap.
I can tell you right now, Ryan's got a big smile on his face right now.
We all do. That's always been a So event rules enhancement, basically just beefing up the rules engine and giving you the ability to do like and or logic on top of the existing one. We've been talking about it for a while. It keeps getting pushed back because it hasn't been a high priority for most of our customers, but it's something we've got in the long-term kind of vision. And another thing in the backlog will be object blurring. So adding the ability to blur faces, for example. And that's really aimed more at the metadata SDK itself. But we have to implement a mechanic across all the different applications to allow you to do system-wide blurring. And so it's not a small project by any means. It's a big project, and there's a lot of logic and kind of user scenarios that come along with it. But the goal would be, okay, we're going to give you the ability to blur sensitive objects, license plates, faces, kind of personally identifying information, and make that like a standard. So that way, people viewing the footage won't be able to take advantage of any personally identifying information they're seeing in the footage, right? Unless they have like the right admin rights for it. So one of the things we talked about with object blurring was like, okay, if you have two people, two admins must be logged in, right? Or owner plus admin must be logged in order to be able to deblur this stuff, right? So that's the stuff that's in the backlog. So that's a general update, and then some questions have come in while we're talking about the roadmap. So let's go over those, right? Darren asked, when will bookmarks be available via the mobile app? Common question from the clients. That is a great question, Darren. We're pushing our development team to focus on getting bookmarks and notifications specifically in the mobile app. I don't have an update for you right at this moment, but Matt and I will ask. I know that there was a conversation going on about a month or two ago about that, and we've had some a little bit of reorg going on inside the development team, and so as a result, some of the stuff has been dropped temporarily while they're reassigning people to get the next release out quicker. So we'll see on that one, but it is a good request. Colin says, I could see NX is now officially a software partner of Axis. When will object tracking be available? Colin, I mean, the challenge with the API, as far as I understand it, is that not all the ACAP applications pass that information through to third-party companies like NX. So that object tracking information, as far as I know, isn't available via the ACAP applications. That being said, we started cooperating more closely with Axis. We're gonna have some more of their cameras and stuff like that in our demo environment for you guys, and it's something that our integrations team is focused on in general, is supporting in-camera analytics kind of to the maximum level. So it is something that we are looking to do. In terms of timing, I couldn't tell you right now, but things like that often happen quickly once they get moving. So if it's available, then we can make it available. In terms of Hikvision, I think it's a similar situation in that our guys talk to Hikvision a lot about their devices, and some of their firmware supports it and some of their firmware doesn't. And typically we don't like to do something unless it's like universal, because if we do work and it only works half the time, then it's very confusing for the channel, because they're like, which devices should I use? That being said, our marketing team is working on in-camera analytics guides right now that really go into the major manufacturers and break down the types of cameras that they offer and the types of in-camera analytics they offer, and then we break down which different camera series from which manufacturer have these analytics on them that you can use in our system. So we're working on that right now. We're about halfway through that, and we'll start publishing those as we feel comfortable with them being complete and accurate. So
we are doing more camera integrations all the time. Like it's something that's always being updated, and we're always looking for more to do. Like we have a timeline and a schedule that we're getting things done, but some are just harder than others. But yeah.
It's a nature of development. Like I said, if it's not universal and it's not something that's like, okay, there's a standard way to do this across all your products, our developers will typically balk at it for good reason, because like they have to be able to maintain it moving forward, right? As in-camera analytics are fairly new, especially the deep learning driven ones, those are the ones that have the most varied APIs and SDKs that go along with them, which means they're the least consistent, right? Which is why you see a lot of times like, well, this camera supports it from this company, but this other camera doesn't. And it's because they've used two different hardware providers when they're building the camera. So the API or the SDK is slightly different, so they're not consistent. So even though we use a consistent API to do the development, the end result isn't the same.
So the best example of this is the Hikvision LPR cameras. The first one they released, we had integration with. Then they released a new one, which had an entirely separate API, which is completely different. So all of a sudden, they released a new model, and we just didn't work with it. We had to write a new integration for that camera. So we're trying, having one simple one makes it heaps easier for us.
Yeah. So a question that came in when I was talking about analytics, I think object search was. So analytics search for line crossing or red car will be able to be set up in NX on older non-AI cameras. No, that's not correct. So in order for us to recognize an object, a third party has to recognize the object. We don't do any analytics other than smart motion detection ourselves, right? We work with the capabilities of the camera or the capabilities of a third party that has done a plugin via the metadata SDK to allow us to bring objects in, right? So you won't be able to use an old camera and then apply new analytics to it. You'll have to buy a camera with analytics in it, or you'll have to implement a analytics solution on top of your existing kind of older cameras to actually analyze the video as it's coming in, right? In regards to backup of the event, to duplicate the location for backup to be on the network away from the server. I don't know what that means. Is it possible in regards to backup of the event to duplicate the location backup to be on the network? Yes, I think that Vlado is asking, can you back up to a network location instead of on your local server? Yeah, you can do that now, Vlado. You add a NAS device. When you add a NAS device externally, it could be Samba, it could be iSCSI, it could be some special format that Windows recognizes that you have software for. As long as Windows can recognize or Ubuntu can recognize the backup location, we can also recognize it, right? So like SMB NAS, right? Samba NASs right now, we support all of them. So when you implement a NAS, when you do it, there's a little drop down next to the backup location, and you can just go and click on that and change from main to backup. And then that becomes your backup location. And it doesn't matter if it's networked locally, doesn't matter if it's remotely, as long as your computer has access to it, we can back up to it. There are some third-party solutions if you have projects that require off-site, like cloud-based storage. We have the ability right now through some partners to do cloud-based storage. So talk to Matt, talk to your sales guys, and they can talk to you about the different solutions that are out there for you right now if you need off-site cloud-based kind of backup locations. In regards to proxying web applications locally, will that include web GUI of managed switches? Yes, it will. If the device is available locally and the URL is stored in the server, you will be able to proxy to it. But you got to put it into the NX server. You got to put it into the system before we can proxy to it. All right. As long as the server is on the same subnet, then you should be able to proxy to it. Right. To clarify IoT better, live recording in 2 different locations. Yes, that's something we supported for a while. Real-time backup is basically you're recording 2 locations at once. You set up one as your main and one as your backup, and then record them both at the same time. Doesn't matter, again, if it's on-site or if it's off-site, as long as your server running the NX server is able to see that other machine, as long as it's like a publicly accessible, not publicly accessible, but accessible to the computer, then you can write to it. It doesn't really matter where it is. And you can write to it in the same time. All right, we just nailed all those questions. Are there any additional questions on top of what I just said?
I've had one come through.
You got some text questions.
I've got a text come through, mile site integration for analytics.
Mile site integration? You know what? I'll search the wiki, see what it says. I don't really get involved in individual camera integrations so much because most of them are driven by specific projects. It's a great. You're talking about in terms of in-camera analytics?
Yep.
Okay, let me check. Give me a second, guys.
That was Colin just sent me a really funny message.
Colin is making people laugh. Yeah, I'm not seeing it right now on the wiki, but we'll check that one out, and Matt can give you guys an update later. And I'm not seeing it just because I can't find the right search for it. So I have to ask the product team where they're tracking that information. Like I said, we're hiring a bunch of developers right now, specifically focuses on integrations. Oops, I just went fuzzy, didn't I? So that we're hiring a ton of developers right now. The big focus is on integrations, and long-term and short-term focus for the company overall is in-camera analytics, and being able to support them to the maximum amount. So what's another question, Matt?
One other question's just come in. SD card recording off the camera. They call it OnVIF H or G. I can't remember which OnVIF that is.
So there's a couple of different OnVIF profiles that are in the backlog and our developers are aware of. They're not listed as features right now because it's generally OnVIF updates and stuff we work on all the time. OnVIF profile M and profile G are the two that we're kind of focused on at the moment. G is the ability to treat the device like a edge recorder and synchronize the storage and everything with it. I think most of that will come after, will come either with or after the cloud storage stuff. So that's the kind of first point that is for profile G for the synchronization between the SD card storage and the archive itself. What we have to do is we have to say, okay, look, there's a difference here, and we have to move files over. Again, our guys want to do it as a universal type approach, and the challenge for them has been how do they all these camera manufacturers need to support profile G properly in order to be able to do it. Even OnVIF is a self-declared standard, right? All of OnVIF is a self-declared standard. So a lot of cameras are manufactured, for example, in China, and they're built with common hardware components, and they supposedly have OnVIF profile G or OnVIF support. In actuality, many different brands don't fully support OnVIF. That's something that's just going to be coming along. I don't know what the actual schedule is for either one of those features, but I know that they're constantly raised and our guys are aware of them and they're considering ways to implement them. So profile M is metadata, right? So objects and stuff like that. So again, that's something that's been raised. I'm not sure about the development roadmap for it. There was a couple questions that came in. So for integrations with cameras, it doesn't matter which manufacturer they are. So if we have a Powered by NX partner and they have their own hardware and we want to support their cameras and inside of NX Witness, remember Meta is the platform that we use to develop all Powered by NX products, which includes NX Witness. So if we implement an integration for a camera for one of our downstream partners, Powered by NX partners, they will always be done first in NX Meta, and they'll be released in NX Witness. They'll also be available in that partner solution, right? But they're always done first with NX, and then the release is when they're available publicly. Okay.
So just to put that into context, so this comes up a fair bit at the moment. If one of our other VMSs that we make for Hanwha or whatever released a feature, that means that it works with NX as well. So the biggest example of this has come up recently is that Hanwha did a webinar with integration of integrity. That means that it works with us as well. So yeah, you can't do one without the other. It doesn't work like that.
You can. There's ways to do it, but a developer is very unlikely to create a solution that's going to be limited to one brand because it limits their ability. So if the third party is developing the integration, right, using our API, then what that means is that third party has the ability to access the entire Power by NX channel, which includes NX Witness and all downstream products that are created with NX Meta, right? So there's no incentive for the company that's doing the integration to do it for one of those brands. They want to do it for all of them. And since our APIs and our SDKs are consistent with all released versions of our product, then if you do an integration, pretty much de facto, it's gonna work with all Powered by NX products, right? So, and what you'll notice if you go to nxvms.com/integrations, is there are more and more integrations that are showing up there. A lot of them are video analytics driven because that's the major thing that people are asking for. But access control and stuff like that is going to make its way in as well.
So the big one up at that, on that at the moment as well is in Australia we have a monitoring platform, I guess you call it, called Permacon. So we're doing integration with Permacon at the moment. It'll be released in probably about 4 weeks. Now what that will do is allow any monitoring center in Australia that has a Permacon receiver to take visual verification of any NX monitoring site. But what that also means at the same time, by de facto, is it will work with Hardwire as well. So that's just kind of the way that it works.
Well, it's a Powered by NX product. It's common API. It's a trade-off, guys. So like, even though maybe it'd be ideal for some of our distributors to have this feature only inside of NX Witness, well, yeah, but at the same time, it's also beneficial for everybody to share integrations and share that code base, because it also allows us to pull in integrations we see from our partners and make them available on the integrations marketplace and make them available to you guys faster, right? So
just on that Permacon as well, guys. So most monitoring centers in Australia have a Permacon receiver. So what we're doing at the moment is working with Permacon, and basically any of your sites that you have, if they want their visual verification done, they're just going to be able to talk to pretty much any monitoring center in Australia after about probably November, and get visual verification alarms done. It's a pretty big win for us, to be honest. And Permacon have been really good about it.
So another question came in about SaaS app stores using MQTT. It's MQTT. Are you guys going to be working closely with them, or only if the app supports something? The SaaS kind of approach is really focused on getting companies to create applications for these Android-based cameras, right? That's my take on it, right? It's a pretty high-level take. NX has been talking to them since the very beginning about potentially developing a version of our server application that can run on cameras. So that's one thing that we will be working on over the next year, which is kind of exciting, which is that you'll have a serverless VMS potentially coming out, right? And I think Matt did a webinar earlier this week, or is it tomorrow, with the cast cameras?
Oh, DW, yeah. So
yeah,
that's tomorrow.
So tomorrow, attend the webinar with DW. They've got a solution right now that they've had for a while that we worked with them on years ago to develop, and it's been out for a while, and so it's fairly tested and pretty solid. And it's a serverless VMS, right? Meaning the server application from NX Witness can run on these cameras. So all you need to do is have NAS storage locations, right? Or you could even have SD cards in the cameras themselves to store footage. So you can have a serverless VMS, which is pretty cool. Now it has some limitations in terms of the size and scalability of it, because remember, all of our servers synchronize in real time. And so like the amount of synchronization that takes place does impact CPU as a system grows in size. And so for the cameras, they have a max in terms of like the number of cameras you can put in without a server, right?
30.
But that solution is great for small systems. Right? It has a lot of potential for small systems. I'm not sure about the cost trade-off right now. It's probably honestly cheaper to buy kind of cheaper cameras and a small little computer because we can run, on really lightweight stuff. If you're doing, small systems, but it is just a pretty cool solution. So tune in tomorrow, and Matt and Patrick Kelly from Digital Watchdog are going to go over that solution, which is very cool. Matt, are you also doing IR multipath, the same as Permacon? Is a question that came in.
I can honestly say I don't know what IR multipath is.
So Steve, email Matt about that and make him follow up on it.
Yeah.
All right. What other questions are there?
I haven't had any more come through.
We're done.
So guys, so we are, the update is coming Q2 next year. Will probably be a safe bet. It's going to be a really cool update.
It's really, a lot of features. Really a lot of.
We should have the first beta for it late this year, early next year. In which case you'll be able to start testing it, or you'll be able to log into my system and have a look at it. It is going to be a really cool update with some really nice features and bits and pieces like that.
Yeah, very significant.
Yeah. And then there's lots of other little things happening in the background as far as integrations and bits and pieces. Like the best thing to do, honestly, is just every so often log into my.network Optix, have a look at what the features, bits and pieces, and the patches and bits and pieces that are coming, because a lot of those features get released in the next update as well. But yeah, send us an email with questions and bits and pieces. Feel free to reach out to us anytime.
Yeah, are there any more questions? I wanted to show you guys, since you guys are on here, why not? Let me see if I can. All right, let's see. Yeah, cool. I can share my screen. Matt, you seeing my screen?
Yeah. Oh, it's just black at the moment, but yeah, there it is.
So we do have a new MyNX working on it, and ignore, you know what? I'll log out and log in as a different person, so you guys can see it more like a normal user. So the new MyNX, which you guys are welcome to go sign up for and play around with right now, it's mynx2.networkoptix.com. We're going to send an invite out to resellers, working on a reseller dashboard for you guys to make this interface more reseller focused, because this is our default interface for new users. But basically, the new MyNX has a ton of tools in it. So going through here, we have this thing now. We've got the knowledge base that's going to be in MyNX. The knowledge base is basically all the different ways that we're going to be, all the different actions and features and stuff like that you can take in the software, which is what we're going to be using to do the new training curriculum. Training is already in here as well. So the operator certification, course content, we're going to have it so that our resellers will be able to download, our distributors and resellers will be able to download the certification course itself and run their own courses. Ultimately, it'll just be somebody taking a test at the end here to get certified. Underneath the certification as well, we've got a new section where people who have been certified will be able to be searched. So if you want to look and see, for example, has Matt been certified? Matt, have you been certified?
Yeah, there I am.
There he is, man. There he is. March 10th, 2020. Matt made it. So right now it's just literally name and date certified. If you've got any concerns or anything like that about the information being shared, talk to Matt about it. Our goal is going to be just to put it up there for a couple reasons. One is to help people prove that they've been certified, right? I mean, obviously we have a PDF that you get when you finish, but that could be copied, right? So if you're doing RFPs or something like that, this will be a tool for you. If you're a certified reseller or you're a certified distributor, this is a tool for you guys to go like, hey, we're certified. Here's all the people that are certified. Go check the NX operator certified operator lists, right? Oh, ask our competitor if they're certified, how many people they have, right? So certification is going to become more important for us as we continue. The knowledge base is in here. There's the other thing here that's really, excuse my language, kick ass, which is that we have content tools. And what content tools are is if you're a distributor and you need to be able to answer an RFP really quickly, right? Or you just need to write some marketing material really quickly, but you don't want to write it all from scratch, right? We've taken all the brochures and we've put the text into the MyNX now. But we've gone beyond that, right? So this is the brochure text. It's all fairly simple because brochures are mostly visual. But on top of that, we've got the advantages, the architecture information, an individual description of every single one of the components, a description of the developer tools, and the full feature list. All available for you guys in what we call these content blocks. So these are copy and pastable basically, right? And we've got the icons there as well. So you can take the icons, throw them in the presentations, throw them in the proposals, even just download this and keep it for yourselves as a knowledge base if you really want to. We got all the different advantages, usability advantages, architectural advantages, automation and integration advantages, cost of ownership, customization, all these different advantages we've kind of listed out here with icons to go along with it. Same thing, we've got the description of each component here as well with like the advantages of it, but also the scalability of it, the cloud interface, supported devices, the different security and integration tools that go along with it. Basically every single bit of knowledge that we can draw out of my head and throw into here for you guys, so that you can take it and you can create all sorts of downstream marketing and sales and support information. It's all available in the new MyNX. If you're a reseller as well, we're putting more links in here for things like license portal, so you don't have to leave MyNX in order to access it with information about it. We got webinars here. We got the how to buy stuff, obviously the training we already went over. You can still download NX Witness and monthly patches here. You can still access the free trial, but the focus of MyNX specifically for resellers is we're going to be putting all that information that you guys typically have to have on hand and up to date. It's all going to be put in here, right? And all this information will be made accessible to you, and you'll be able to copy and paste, like I said, into whatever you need. So I'm kind of excited about it. I love the new MyNX. I think it's cool, and we're going to try and roll it out. We're waiting on a learning management. They have a learning management system as part of this platform, and that's why we're waiting on it, because we're redoing some of the training and certification programs to make more for end users, more for consultants, make them more role-based. Right now, our operator certification is kind of aimed at everybody, right? We want to make them more bite-sized. So. Any other questions have come in? Oops. Do you see any more questions, Matt?
I got
or
nothing.
You still not having access to it?
No, I don't. I can't see the questions, but nothing's come through on text or email.
Okay, here we go. Bookmarks, we already had that one. We already had that one. Yeah, I guess no more questions have come in. Anybody else? No?
Nope.
Must have done a fantastic job. We must have gone over everything.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming, everyone.
Yeah, I mean, we'll give them a couple more minutes here, Matt.
You got,
here's a question for you guys. You know what? Can I do a poll? Yeah, let's. Oh wait, I didn't create any polls ahead of time. Darn it, I could have done that. General question, and you can just answer in the chat if you want to answer and you're paying attention still. What percent? Wait, do you use third-party video analytics? what percentage of your projects do you use them in? Do you use them majority, use them sometimes, use them often, use them never at all? So it's third-party video analytics. So that would be having NX Witness and then having an object-based, video analytic or face recognition added to it, right? So the kind of general question for everybody, and you can answer in the chat, like I said, if you want to, is what percentage of the projects do you use out there do you actually use third-party object-based analytics like face recognition or license plate recognition? Nobody's answering. They all got busy. I'm gonna take the answer as 0.
There's not a lot. So
Honestly,
we're definitely getting more. I can say that. Like it is coming up more. Mainly object tracking is probably the big one. Face recognition.
We had a couple more questions coming in. Exporting video clips or snapshots on NX mobile app. Good question, Steve. Steve, I feel like you should be our product manager for mobile because you've kind of hit 2 of the big ones, bookmarks and notifications, and then exporting video, making the mobile app a more useful app as opposed to just I kind of see it as I want to check in on my place remotely app, right? Or I want to be notified via push notification if something's happening. But I don't really see our mobile app as reaching its full potential yet. So it's a good question, Steve. Yeah, I was going to say in LinkedIn, we did ask a question. If you haven't seen our LinkedIn lately, we asked a poll question, and I was actually quite interested in the results of it, which was, in-camera analytics are, getting more and more powerful. What percentage of your projects do you use in-camera analytics on, right? And the result was 32% said not many, 29% said some, 28% said most, and 10% said all. So the majority said some or not many, which is interesting to me because it seems like it's something that our reseller channel is really missing out on, is the ability to kind of wow their customers with like, oh, I can do that with that camera. And it may just be a cost issue, right? But I was interested in that result. So it's got 15 hours left to vote if you guys want to go vote on the poll on LinkedIn from Network Optics. All right. Well, Matt, thank you, everybody.
Have a great day.
Coming and spending some time with us. I mean, Ask NX Anything is something we like to do every once in a while. Obviously, you guys can ask Matt anything you want, anytime you want, because that's his job. He'll probably ask me if he doesn't know the answer. But the good thing is Matt asks me questions less and less, which means either he's getting less questions, which I don't think he is, or he's built up his knowledge so much that he's able to answer the majority of the questions without even talking to me.
I just asked Ryan, mate.
So you push it off onto Ryan, and Ryan asks me when he doesn't know the answer. Yeah. Ryan asks one of us at least.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Well, hey, like I said, we're excited about a couple things in the short term as well. We're not going to just be, you're not going to be sitting around waiting on these new features. We're going to be announcing more and more integrations. We have a lot in the pipeline right now that a lot of companies have done integrations. We're going to be announcing more of those as we go along. We're having more works with the next webinars for new integrations. One of the things we're really focused on with integrations specifically is the documentation surrounding the integration to make it much more clear. I know when we first launched Works with X on MyNX, it was a new thing, and companies came in and posted some stuff, and then they weren't really responsive. One of the things that we've done over the last year or so is really focus on having tighter communication with those companies and making them go through a stricter process before they get listed on the integrations marketplace in nxvms.com. So the integrations that you see up there, they should be supported. You can contact the integrations partner directly via the interface. If you don't hear back from an integrations partner, please, by all means, let Matt know, because his feedback is important in terms of us following up with those partners and making sure that they're following up with that information. And if partners are not responding to requests after they've done an integration, usually one of a few things is wrong. One, they're not getting the email. So for some reason, they used like a info at, and they just never check that email, right? And another reason is maybe they've changed their strategy in terms of like which markets they're serving or distributing into. So if you aren't getting integration responses and you're confused about an integration, by all means, let us know, so we can take steps to fix the issue. And like I said, the new MyNX will be popping off here pretty soon. We'll have a lot of new certifications programs coming out for you guys, a lot of new certification curriculums that you'll be able to take advantage of, and then all those content tools that I showed you guys earlier on, the new MyNX. So again, thank you everybody, and thanks Matt for inviting me to the Works with the Security Week Australia. Yep. So again, come see the presentation tomorrow, though. A lot of cool stuff from DW that you guys should know about.
Speak to you soon, guys.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everybody.